This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.
Greetings, incredible, dynamic, wonderful, I Love Black People listeners. Appreciate all your support all year long and joining us on our wonderful journey as we explore some of the most amazing, positive things that are happening in our communities and our ability to affect the change that we seek. We definitely appreciate everyone being a part of this. And, it's not just a listening experience. This is literally our way of sharing so that we can actually create, and develop the world where our communities can thrive. And being able to leverage media to share these stories and to share the information that we have and experiences is really a pleasure. And it actually, you know, being in a position to be able to do that is a powerful thing, and we don't take it for granted. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Uh, we're going to talk about today some of the things that we have going on that are really, as we enter a new year, we think is a very, very important. Now, a lot of our conversations have been about violence, and as you know, even with our tech space, at the blockchain summit, we talked about the Black Blockchain Summit. We talked about peaceful solutions to violent world problems. And shout out to Wire Magazine. They covered us in Wire Magazine again, talking about leveraging this technologies, blockchain for the Black community. But again, as we always say, we see technologies just as a tool. And it's neither good nor bad. It's actually in our hands. And as you see people talking about again, blockchain as the price of Bitcoin rises, I always get people, talking about, hey, is it too late? It's still early. And then even with this artificial intelligence and some of the things that have been happening, again, this is neither good nor bad. We have to understand, we have to be the ones that actually are creating and developing the applications around these technologies and using them in a way that actually benefits our community collectively. So we're charged with doing that. We're the adults in the room. And as we see the things that are happening around us, there's no one else we're waiting for. Jesse Jackson's is very old. It's been our turn, and what they say, you got to take your turn. And I think that's important to say that any of the things that we complain about or we see being wrong, we need to address it. And one of the things with I Love Black People, our startup, we're doing a lot of focus of activities on the continent and really with our Pan African message. And I think a lot of times people don't realize in environments where almost everyone's black, the conversation around, black friendly, black unity sometimes doesn't have the same context. We really talk about Pan African unity when we're talking about the context on the continent. And in the United States, it's easy to say black friendly because, again, relative to the population in North America, uh, we as black people represent a smaller amount. And on the continent of Africa, we dominate, Mother Africa, right? So it's, the focus in our situations there are really talking about Pan Africanism. There's 54 countries in Africa, but the African countries weren't made by Africans. The countries were made by Europeans. The same people who made the European countries made the African countries. So as we know that that's a problem, that these borders were created to divide and rule, not to in some way establish boundaries around cultural norms or traditions. literally were carved in order to allow Europeans to maximize their exploitation of our people. So when we talk about Pan African unity, we're organizing and working with brothers and sisters that don't see those borders as the determinant of who and how they interact with people. We see it as a one continent with one aim and one purpose of literally pulling our people together. And as you know, our mission has always been to literally protect uh, our people from racism and Afrophobia. And what we are working on in developing some campaigns on the continent is actually doing that through Pan African unity. And when we say Pan African unity, it addresses the issues of the different countries because Pan Africanism doesn't, settle for those borders. It's about collective, and also deals with the issues of tribalisms that can be negative. So that again, when we talk about a Pan Africanist, we're talking about someone who sees all our brothers and sisters in the African diaspora as part of one family. Different mamas, maybe, but again, our mamas might have the same, that might be sisters. You know what I'm saying? So it literally is about identifying people who see the need to come together as a global community to create means to protect ourselves. And when we start talking about family, the fundamental purpose of the family is protect the family unit. The fundamental purpose of the Pan African unity that we're developing is to protect our communities. And we say communities plural because we do have different communities. In no way are we saying that our people of the African diaspora are of one, you know, type. We come in all of God's multiplicities, if you will. So but the purpose is, as Booker T. Washington said, we may be different like the five fingers on the hand, but we can work together and in a mighty fist. And with that being said, we're literally leveraging our application. If you haven't downloaded the I Love Black People application as a tool to help us organize in this way. And up until now, we've been organizing using, again, things like WhatsApp, Zoom. But as we develop our Pan African application, we're going to be able to actually use our own technology. And that's to say that the folks who created WhatsApp weren't thinking about the problems that we face as a Pan African community. The people who made Zoom weren't thinking about the issues that we face. So it's important that, again, that we have our own community developing the technologies that we use where possible. And that being said, we think that these are ways that we can better, again, develop with a purpose, not just getting together for social reasons, but getting together so we can protect each other through developing Pan African unity that allows us to protect each other from racism and Afrophobia. And Afrophobia, upon the definitions that we use, is literally the fear or the hatred of people perceived to be of African descent. And, again, these are some of the words we use when we're talking to folks. I've even had people say, I love Black people. I'm not Black. Black is, I'm brown. We're not talking about a color. What happens in many ways, unfortunately, if you go over to places outside of the continent and you tell someone who's of African descent, maybe in Peru or even the Caribbean, we're North America. You're African. No, no, I've never been to Africa. Fine. And your DNA might have spent millions of years in Africa and then about 2 days in North America. Well, maybe 100 years or so. Instead of having that argument or getting people to have to say they're African, almost everybody understand what it is to be Black. It's not one of those things where when you say Negro, when you talk about being dark or being melanated, you can be very clear that there's a differentiation. And so, to even be more clear, we normally don't spend a lot of time on that. The people who really are interested in organizing in a Pan African way, we really say, come on, let's go. The folks who disagree with that, we think that's great. Like, I think one of the problems with organizing and the way people see it, they think somehow everyone has to agree. And I still remember in the early days of organizing, when I was learning in the late '80s, people would talk about being conscious and calling brothers and sisters unconscious if they didn't do certain things. And what it was, it ended up being a personal attack. You really turn people off when you call them names, or you tell them that they're stupid, or you're sleepy, you're sleeping. Like that's not, you know, fundamentally, when we are organizing, one of the books we give to our members is a book called Building by Booker T. Washington. And it's a book that he would share with his students, who many of them, again, were born into slavery or were children of parents who were enslaved. So it's one of those things where he wanted to make sure not only did he educate their mind, he wanted to make sure their heart was actually, addressed. And he did that through a series of sermons he would do. And I'm saying sermons, but they were more or less like lectures. When I say sermons, again, Booker T. Washington was a Christian, so he had a certain worldview, a spiritual view. But again, this transcends being Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu. This was literally, he was talking about, behavior of people, how you should carry yourself, not dealing in lies, having again good character and being able to define what that was fundamental. So we can talk about the ideology of Pan Africanism, we're all family, but if you're a liar, we're not organizing that way. If you're somebody who's mean spirited and want to hurt people, I've even had some people talk about, well, anger is okay because it can help motivate you. Anger is a horrible motivator. It can actually cloud the decision making. It's definitely difficult to plan and collaborate with people when they're angry. So again, of course, the passion that motivates us to wake up every morning and to do the things we do is important, but it has to be controlled and mitigated in a way that you can actually be clear minded and your heart is operating from the right space, so the decisions that you make will have the outcomes that you're looking for. And when we talk about organizing this way, it's very important that that character is key to organizing, even when we're talking about, again, the issues that we face as people of African descent. Good character. I think another thing that we face with some of the organizing, the things that we do on the continent of Africa, and this happens as well in North American. So many people are looking at the political environment and trying to figure out what politician to blame for the life and the world that they live in. And I often hear about people talking about black leaders, African leaders, talking about what they're not doing in corruption. And we got to be clear, colonialism has to be one of the biggest corruptions. Capitalism, in so many ways, has to be one of the biggest corruptions. The exploitation that's come out of that, and the motivations of that, as well as not just on the continent of Africa, all over the world. So once we agree on that, then what are we going to do? Vote, and I think voting is fine, but election days are like one day, and we got to live every day. And so, what we stress to people is that it's important that we don't start our accountability talking about African leaders. Our accountability should first start with us. We should exhaust what we can do to make a difference in the world. We shouldn't wait for politicians or African leaders to do what's right. It's always right to do what's right. Like that is something we can do right now. And as Kwame Ture said, again, organize, organize, organize. We don't have to wait for a politician to organize ourselves in a way that brings about the Pan African unity and the one Africa that we seek. We have access now to technologies that can allow us to reach out to brothers across countries or across continents, across oceans. We don't have to wait for somebody to be elected to say to do it. And if we think about most rebellions, most revolutions didn't happen from elected officials. There's probably almost no elected officials said, today let's have a rebellion. And they might say Donald Trump, but I'm not here to have those debates either. But I'm saying by and large, it takes the masses, the African masses, to organize. And we shouldn't wait for someone to do that for us. We should do that for ourselves. And that's what I Love Black People. As we develop, we actually have a Saturday call that we do every Saturday, is our Saturday call in class, where we literally have brothers and sisters from all over the continent speaking on different topics that are important as it relates to Pan Africanism, as well as we have some incredible professors and teachers that are talking about Pan Africanism, talking about holistic health. Again, going back to, at the end of the day, all the Pan African ideology in the world is not going to be as helpful if you're not healthy. So again, the love that we profess for our community and our people must start with ourselves. So we always include Sister Anana Kua, who's wonderful, beautiful, dynamic, and so like plugged in that space. And she also helps us with our Global Green Book, where we'll have a new edition of that coming out, focusing on the legal space as well as healthcare. But to really kind of sum up the importance of this is that we really want to make sure when we're talking to our members and to you listening, don't wait for politicians and blaming politicians. Like if you mad at Trump, loving Obama, being mad at Trump, or hating Obama, hating and loving politicians is not a political strategy. It's going to be hard to change the conditions that you're facing, talking about you love or hate somebody who's in an elected office. We have to work with those. No, we don't have to. You can do what you want. So there's no, many ways to skin a cat. Not trying. I love cats. I'm not trying to do an anti-animal thing, but there's many ways to do things. The way that we do it with I Love Black People is saying that literally we can come together without waiting for politicians. And one of the things that we see that's helpful is having tools that allow us to bring our people together in a way that makes sense. One of the things we did when we went last year to the Ukraine border, again, when our brothers and sisters were leaving the Ukraine, fleeing the war as well as racism, they needed to know where were the Pan-African, where were the places that were Black friendly. Let's be clear, in the European marketplace, there was oftentimes places that were hosted by Europeans, but they were Europeans that treated Black folks with dignity and respect, or Asians or other folks. So we literally used the technology that we had to help people use a database instead of using Google lists or Google sheets to help them identify. And that was one of the things we first started using our app for. And as you can see, again, with many of the wars being promoted by the warmongers, many of our people are still being displaced, not just out of Ukraine, but even within the context of Africa. And having a tool that allows our people to identify safe places and people who are interested in their quality of life as a safety net is very important. We want to make sure that no matter where we go as a people, we can live fearlessly. And we can make that happen without an NGO. We don't have to wait till NGO says, we want to make sure that your children are protected. We're the adults in the room now. It's our turn. It's up to us to make sure we're protecting our community and our children. And even to talk about our children, like, things even like the 8 categories that we focus on are healthcare, finance, legal, places to stay, food, beauty, uh, education / childcare, and finance. So our focus is definitely on the key areas to build this one Africa, to build a community. These are bedrocks. You got to have teachers to have a community, and those teachers have to love our people. It's going to be difficult to have childcare and the people are hating our people. So it's important as we talk about building the world that we want to live in. We now have access to technologies that allow us to connect in a very substantive way. And we're literally utilizing those tools to build the world we want to live in. And we're so thankful for so many of our members who have helped us make it this far. As a startup, you have a limited amount of resources. So in order to make our resources go further, we depend on volunteers. We have staff, But when I talk to our staff, and this is probably around the time for bonuses, we literally say, look, this what you're getting paid is not a reflection of your value. This is a token of our appreciation at best. And that the motivation can't be financial because the amount of work that we're doing every day, we can never compensate in that way alone. It has to be something that's mission driven. It has to be the importance of making sure that our people are no longer humiliated and harmed by racism and Afrophobia. So it's important as we bring our people together that our focus is literally that quality of life. And that's why we don't charge our people to be members. We do have paid members, and if you want to support us that way, that's super helpful. But what we tell our members that it's the time they and their brains that they commit to helping us build that's priceless. There's no membership fee that could ever outweigh the brilliance of ideas and time and energy that we've receiving from so many to get to this point. So what we always are clear of is making sure that we leverage every brain in the room to come up with solutions to old problems, new ideas. And even if the solutions don't work, and I say this to our staff, we're not here to be perfect. We're here to make progress. And we can't let perfection, you've heard this before, be the enemy of progress. I love Coach Prime. And he said, you better get me now because this is the worst I'm going to be. A lot of times we look at that like as a startup. We're learning every day. We wake up as a startup, learning every day how to improve our love Black people. So you better get us now because every day we're learning, we're getting better. This is the worst we're going to be today. And just like Coach Prime, you may not make it to a bowl, okay, but we're going to wake up every day as champions. Like we're going to pursue this in a relentless way that we won't be denied and we'll never surrender. So we'll never be defeated contextually. At the end of the day, we're going to wake up every morning, win or lose, whatever happened the previous day, win or lose. If it was a great day or a day that was a little more difficult, no matter what, we're going to wake up the next day, God willing, and pursue this again with that championship mentality. So it's important for us to be very clear that we are working together is the win, and our ability to figure out how to maximize that ability to use that togetherness to create the world that we want to live in that's safe from racism and Afrophobia. And I think another thing that we see, besides folks, more concerned about politicians, is the accountability starts with you. We have the Saturday call, we have books that we share with our members, we have, polls and questions and discussions, but it takes the members to do what they need to do to study what we're doing in order to make the things that we're doing work well. And so I tell the members that look, you can talk about all these, leaders that you want, what they didn't do and what they should do. The bigger question is what you gonna do, because that's the only person you control. So to talk about what the leader didn't do and you didn't make it to the Saturday class or Saturday call, now shame on you. So it's very important that we talk about. And then the other thing they talk about corruption. And no one stole more from Africa than the European. Until we start holding everyone accountable, then I have some very interesting questions to those who want to start with an African leader who may not be in the position as you might think that person is. When I say it, let me say it another way. If we want to start talking about who took what, I think that's fair. But are we really talking about what is really going on? Or are we talking about a symptom of what's going on? Because if we're really serious about stopping whatever it is we see going on, we're going to have to get to first principles or get to the source. And that's when people get scared. It's easy to attack other Black people, other African people. What's hard is to talk about the system of white supremacist ideology. What's hard is to talk about the former colonizer and how violence is being used still to again, assassinate African leaders, coups in African countries, the destabilization of economies, through sanctions and boycotts. So there's a host of things that are happening. And if we just talk about the African leader and not get to the source of the problem, they'll just, you do in that leader to get someone else, and the system is still in place. So this is all a part of a cycle that we are, cheerfully a part of, and we're so thankful to have you be a part of this experience through the I Love Black People Radio and all the listeners that continue to support all the folks. Make sure you go to our website, iloveblackpeople.com. Make sure you go to our Twitter account. Mine is Skinner Liberated with an 8 in there. You can imagine Skinner Liberated. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter. We thank you for all your support. If you want to get out to us directly, info@iloveblackpeople.com. If you're in the States or even a long distance out of the country, our phone number is 202-558-5143, 202-558-5143. And we're accessible, we're reachable. We want to make sure that we're able to share everything we do with you. And with that being said, as I always leave you, I am because we are.
This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.